I'm here actually, though, to introduce Jolene Molitoris. She is with the Ohio Department of Transportation, just took over as the leader there. Former chairwoman of the Ohio Rail Development Commission and former railroad administrator, Ms. Molitoris was appointed to the assistant director position by the governor in March, a little more than a year ago. January of this year, she was appointed by Governor Strickland to the director position. Now she's working to plan, to build, and maintain the multimodal transportation system for the 21st century that Chris talked about, and to help the governor implement the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act to stimulate Ohio's economy and job creation. So to do all that, big job coming up. Jolene Molitoris. Welcome her, please.
Thank you so much. Well, this is really great fun. Chris, where are you, Chris? Where did you go? There you are. We didn't really call each other, but after I talk today and we sit down and talk, you'll think we did. And that's really exciting. First of all, I want to thank all of you for taking time to share with us on what I hope will be a very productive day, and hope that in a few moments we can share some of the basic and important elements of what's going on at the state level. But just like they say that all politics is local, all transportation is really local too. And that's why the NOACAs, the MORPCs, the planning agencies all over this state and all over this country represent a key ingredient to our success. When I looked at the title of the summit, Howard, very appropriate, we could spend a lot of time on the challenges that we were facing. I'll spend just a little time because we know it all too well. You pick up the paper, you turn on the news, you listen to the radio. There's a lot of tough news out there. Governor Strickland and I spent the earlier part of this week in Washington, stumping for money, stumping for Ohio, and stumping for an authorization bill that's going to create a foundation for the future that we all can count on and build on. One of the things that is exciting to me is that we've got a fighter in the governor's office, and if we ever needed a fighter, we need it today. One of the things that is a statistic of concern is that in the last 12 months, well, say April to April, 08 to 09, our country's receipts, whether you look at state, federal, government, I don't know so much the details of this locality, but 37% reduction in receipts. This is unprecedented. In our lifetime, we have never seen an economic tsunami like we are experiencing today. And so we have a couple of options, really, only two. We're either going to hunker down, go to the closet and wait it out, or we're going to be the leaders and the phalanx of fighters that we have to be to create the new country, the new Ohio, that we know we can be. It's most interesting to note that our president and his team in Washington made a decision, and actually it's quite interesting. If you look back to the campaign, and then if you Google other campaigns in our lifetime, I don't think you will ever hear transportation mentioned, infrastructure mentioned so often in a campaign as you heard it last year. Why is that? I want to just focus on ROI, return on investment. Because in terms of ROI, whether you're in the public sector, the private sector, the planning element, the community development side, even your home budgeting, what you get back for what you invest should drive your decisions. And with regard to transportation, I would contend that there is nothing that we can invest in that will give us a better ROI than transportation and infrastructure investment. And that's why the stimulus package, and I want to point out this is both at the state and federal level, because remember, before there was a federal stimulus package, there was a state stimulus package. And last year, The governor and the General Assembly committed to a state infrastructure package, and $100 million of that was for logistics and infrastructure investment. Why? ROI. Because we need a return on investment that we can see, that we can measure, that we can understand is making our state, our city, our community a different and better place. Since I have 5 extra minutes, Howard, I want to stress a little bit a context, because as you mentioned in my introduction, in March of 2008, the governor asked me to go to the department as assistant director with a very focused goal, and that was to lead the 21st Century Transportation Task Force. Now, you know, big, long name. What is it really all about? It's very simple. First of all, it was not ODOT's task force. I want to underscore that. It was the People's Task Force, and more than 60 leaders from around the country, from around the state, gathered together and worked intensely to listen to people's success stories from around the state, around the country, and around the world, to understand what the needs are, and to grapple with the kind of vision they felt they wanted to recommend to the government and to the governor about what Ohio should be building. And one of the things I want to infuse in here is that whatever we're talking about in these next minutes, hours, there is no such thing as business as usual. What the 21st Century Transportation Task Force identified is that we had to work in a new way. And so when you, Chris, were talking about what I would call the land use planning debate, it was such a high priority in this task force. And their conclusion was that until we faced that and dealt with it from the local, regional, and state level, let alone federal, we couldn't really solve our problem. We couldn't really attack the illness that is in our midst. We couldn't create the right antibiotic to make it go away. So definitely, Chris, on the same wavelength. I want to mention, I see Joe somewhere. Where are you, Joe? Hi, Joe. We had wonderful representative leaders from the Cleveland area. I'm afraid I'm going to miss somebody because I didn't bring an official list. David Beach, I don't know if David is here, a champion for land use planning. Joe Calabrese, a champion for mobility for local and regional communities. Mayor Jackson was our vice chair, who really, along with Ty Marsh, who was the chair, worked together to make sure that these 3 subcommittees and all these 60 leaders were really moving the ball forward. Roseanne DeLeon, you talk about water, Roseanne from the Port Authority. You'll be glad to know that the Department of Transportation has a maritime office for the first time in history. We'll get to that. Al Ratner, a developer. You know, maybe not all of them have the same vision. Maybe there are some new age developers who understand the implications of what's happened to us in the past. Bob Brown, he's the treasurer of Case Western Reserve, and you know, if I have a little special spot in my heart to this part of the country, you're going to have to understand. I was born in Warren, Ohio. I'm a graduate of Case Western Reserve, so University Circle was the place to be for me too. All of these people, along with leaders from all over the state, spent countless hours, days, and meetings grappling with the realities of what do you do when your budgets are constrained in unprecedented ways? What do you do so that you're not just putting fingers in the dike